Hi, I'm Laura. Welcome to Pretty Powerful Pandas, a mini-series where I'll walk you through the most useful, elegant lines of code in Pandas, whether you're just starting out or you want to level up your data game.
Hi and welcome back to Pretty Powerful Pandas. So today for part 7 we're going to be looking at some missing data. And if you have ever worked with data, you will know that there's always something dodgy in your data, whether that be missing values or incorrect spellings or values that are just gone a little bit haywire. It is very, very common to have dodgy data, basically. So we are going to be looking at today how kind of the 5 most common ways that we can handle either missing data and how to replace that. We're going to use the Titanic dataset. I have joined them together just so we can get a little bit more. I'll talk more about this in another episode when we look at some machine learning, but for now I have concatenated them, which just means kind of added them on top of each other, one below the other one. So I've joined them together and here we go. So here's my Titanic dataset, and we will notice that one of my values is an NaN. So that stands for not a number. You can also have NAT, not a time value, or null, all these different things that represent missing data. So how do we deal with it? Well, I think the first thing is actually we need to find out if that's the only NaN or there are multiple throughout the data set. I've got over 13,000 rows, so it's quite likely if there's one in the very first row, there's probably a lot more in there as well. So one of the first things we're going to do is detect it. So we are going to take our data frame and we're going to write is NA question mark no, is NA, and when we do that it brings us back our data frame and it tells us as a boolean whether it's true or false for NA. And we can see in cabin we've got a few trues and a few elsewhere as well. That's not quite easy to read because, as I say, we've got over 1300 rows. So what we're going to do is just find the sum of that, and instantly we get a lovely little list telling us where and how many NaNs we have. So survived, we expect some missing data there because that's going to be our test data. And again, I said I'll come back to that when we do some machine learning in a later episode. But let's figure out how to deal with the rest of it. I'm actually going to start with cabin, if that's all right, because that's massive amount of missing data. So we've got over 1,000 rows that do not have any value for cabin. And we can't delete that. We can't just get rid of those rows because that's the majority of our data set, and that would be losing too much information. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our cabin, a slice, remember this is a slice of our data frame of the column cabin, and I'm going to reassign it. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to take my old data frame of a cabin, which is this column here, and I'm going to dot fill NAs, and that's literally how we're going to do it. So what it does is it takes this slice of the data frame, so the column cabin, and we're going to take all the NAs and we're going to fill it, and in this case we're going to fill it with just the value of unknown, so it's just a constant, a placeholder for us, and then I'm going to reassign it as the new data frame. So if I do that, and now I see my data frame, I've got unknown in these places. So we still don't have the information, but at least then it's usable in any of our calculations. Cool. So the next one, we're going to look at age. There's quite a lot of missing data for age. Again, not something we want to completely throw away because that's too much information, but not as much as cabin. So it is about a sixth of the data, so we do need it, but we can be a little bit smart about it. So again, we're going to take data frame of age and we're going to reassign it. Again, data frame age. And this time in our dot fill NA, we are going to fill it with probably the average That makes sense, doesn't it? In fact, let's just go and find out what the average is. So do you remember from our very first sessions? There we go. If we do data frame describe, it'll give us a little brief stats overview of all of our numerical data for our data frame. And if we look at age, we can see that the mean, the average, is about 30 years old. A standard deviation of 14 years, and even the median's about 28. So we could just take the average for everyone. I know we've got kind of babies on board and someone right up to the age of 80, but the majority of people, in fact the middle 50%, that interquartile range, actually goes between 21 and about 40. So taking the number 30 would be quite a good replacement for that. So what we want to do is, instead of describe the whole thing, we're just going to take age and we're going to find the mean. And when we do that, we get that. And what we're going to do is take that whole thing and we're going to use it in our fill. So we're going to slice our data frame for age, and we're going to fill anything, any values that are NA, and we're going to replace them with the mean of that column age. So yeah, let's do that. And now if I go back up to my, how many of them are NAs? Great. We've already got our cabin sorted, that's great, and now our age. There is no empty ages, and we've got a lot more. If I did this again, it would probably be a little bit more. Yeah, well, that's going to be the exact same, isn't it? But if I did our describe, it probably would look a little bit different now. Okay. The next one, we're going to look at a kind of a little bit of a different. I'll get rid of that. Oh, I'll keep that. A different thing. We're going to look at the embarkment. We've got 2 missing embarkments. Remember, that's kind of where they got on, whether it was Southampton or Cherbourg or in Ireland. So because there's only 2 missing rows, we could actually drop it. However, if this data was collected as people were coming on board, you would expect that the person who has a missing embarkment, either because the person just forgot to put it in, or the writing was illegible and we can't even see what the missing letter is, we could be smart and just say, well, it must be the same as the person in front of them. You know, if there's like 600 people getting on in one place, we would assume that a single missing row is probably the same as the ones before them. So what we are actually going to do is a forward fill. So we're going to take a data frame of the embarked column. Again, we are reassigning. So we're going to take this and dot fill of the NAs. And this time we are going to fill it with a method. And this method, as I say, is called forward fill, so F fill. And what it does is it takes, so say this was the unknown one, it takes the one previous and puts it in the one that's missing. There's also a backward fill, so you could take the one further ahead and bring it back and fill in backwards. So yeah, that's quite a good nifty one. That works really well when it's a time ordered data, and it kind of makes sense. It maybe doesn't in this data set, but just for the purposes of today, we'll make that work. What have I done there? Oh, okay, it's been depreciated. So we'll have to use some of this going on in the future. That's fine, it's going to work today for us. That's all right. And now the only thing that's left is one single missing fare. And I think if we were doing any analysis, fare probably would come into our analytics. So it's quite an important one, so I don't want to make up any data for that. So for that one, I'm literally just going to drop some rows. There's a number of ways to do this, but what we're going to do is redefine our data frame as our original data frame, but we're just going to drop the NAs of the subset, and this time you just have to state it, of the fare column. Okay, so our new data frame is basically the data frame, but we're just dropping any row that has an NA, but only where the slice is the fare. So basically in this column, anything that's an NA, we drop that row. And if we do that, and then we go back up to here, There we go. We have filled in all of our missing data. Cool. Now, this might seem quite crazy. There's a lot of ways to do this, and if you're ever unsure, and this is something we really haven't spoke about, please go to the documentation. So if you just search up pandas documentation or just pandas on Google or whatever, the documentation will pop up, and if you check out the user guide, you've got all of these things that could help you. And if we scroll down to, where was it? Working with missing data. There we go. You've got all of this information that you can refer back to. So whether you want to insert some things, or just like we've done a drop, the NA, so drop some missing, or what else we did? We filled the NA, so we did that quite a lot. We can do forward or backwards like we talked about. There we go, our F fill. So yeah, if in doubt, oh, you can even do some interpolation as well, which is quite nifty if you're doing things a little bit more advanced. But please, if you're ever in doubt, do actually check out the documentation, because that's where everything will be. Okay, so that's the essentials really. It's best to detect what's missing in the first place, so that's our isNA sum, and then you can either fill it with a value, fill it with a mean, forward fill, or just drop the data altogether. And everything is built really nicely, as you can see, into pandas. Yeah, so there's your tip. Go and make your pandas pretty powerful.